Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm super pumped because we're talking about the Sony A7IV and specifically S&Q mode, so everything you need to know about that. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to get 10-bit 422 120 frames per second slow motion out of this camera. And if you already know how to do this, I'll give you a gold star for now, but please do stick around to the end of the video because maybe you learn something new. But for now, let's roll that intro. Alright, so S&Q mode does stand for slow and quick mode, and the question I had when I first bought this camera was why would I use this S&Q mode specifically when I can achieve the same results like time lapses and slow motions without even using this mode. So we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of this, but before we do, I do want to let you know that you're going to need a V60 or higher memory card in order to unlock this S&Q mode on your A7IV. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're not as bad as the V90s. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at the pros and cons. All right, so the first pro we're gonna talk about on this S&Q mode is that your camera does all the work for you. So it slows down the footage or speeds it up for you and then just spits that out right from the memory card, which is super cool. But at the same time, there are cons to this in that you have a lot less to work with. So say you shot it in 24 frames per second and wanted to speed it up in post, well, that gives you flexibility. But in S&Q mode, it's going to be already sped up and you don't have a lot of flexibility there, or it will be already slowed down. All right, so the second pro of S&Q mode is that file sizes are gonna be a whole lot smaller, so that's good for your SD card. You wanna save space always, and that's because it's recording less information. A con of this is that the less information means no audio, so it's not recording audio when you're on S&Q mode, so don't by mistake just leave it in S&Q mode and forget to switch back to video. And then the second thing is that you might lose sharpness too because the bit rates of your S&Q modes are going to be lesser than your video modes. Hey, if you guys are finding value in this video, please feel free to give it a like and let's dive back in. So the third pro I want to talk about in S&Q mode is time lapses, because in your camera you can choose a picture every 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. So you can get time lapses directly sped up and spit out from your memory card right onto your computer. And this is really cool for say like a hiking video where you don't want to mess around in post, in Lightroom, editing images and things like that. So that is a pro for me. But then again, the con is that you have less versatility in those images, and obviously a raw file would give you more information as well. All right, so the fourth and maybe my favorite feature is that you can get 120 frames per second 422 10-bit in using S&Q mode, and you can't actually do it without S&Q mode enabled. So the con to this is that it's only in HD, so we don't have it in 4K like we do on the A7S III. But at the end of the day, this camera is in a better price point and it does have a lot going for it. The other saving grace is that this camera downsamples from 7K to 4K and 1080p. So you still will get really high quality results with this 1080p 120 frames per second 422 10-bit. A few final notes to consider when using S&Q mode is that number one, your shutter speed won't just automatically align with the frame rate that you chose. So you have to manually change that in S&Q mode. And oftentimes you'll think it's already set because you were just in video mode and the shutter speed was set right. But if you're changing from 24 to 30 to 60 to 120 frames per second, you're gonna want double the frame rate for your shutter speed. So keep that in mind. And what you can do is you could use the memory recall features to just kind of pre-program, okay, I want a 30 frames per second slow motion, a 60, and 120. So you have 3 customizable positions on the A7IV for that. And you could just change the shutter speeds respectively to like 60, 120, and then 250. And lastly, just a memory thing as well, so that when you go to S&Q mode and you change the frame rate and quality of your video, you're gonna have to do it again in video. It's only changing for S&Q and it's not changing for your standard video shooting. So congratulations, you guys are now slow and quick pros, and please go watch my video now on bit rates and codecs if you're not familiar with that yet on the Sony A7IV, and we'll see you in the next one. I appreciate all of you. Matty out. Peace.